Okay, we're going to talk about subtracting angles in degrees, minutes, and seconds form. So here we go. First things first, same as addition, you just subtract as normal. Thinking back to the old days of borrowing and things like that, we're going to talk about how you have to borrow a little bit differently in this one. So here we go. Alright, so we're just going to start off subtracting as we normally would. So what is 42 minus 34? Okay, so here we go. So 42 minus 34, well, 2 minus 4 can't do, so I'm going to borrow, so I get 3, that becomes 12. 12 minus 4 is 8, and I get seconds, and 3 minus 3 is 0, so I get 8 seconds there. 23 minus 8, well, I can't, I got to borrow, so put the 1, make it 13. 13 minus 8 is 5, so I get 15 minutes. I now continue to go on, I get 35 minus 12, so 5 minus 2 is 3 degrees, and 3 minus 1 is 23 degrees, 15 minutes, 8 seconds. Now, we're going to talk about what happens if I have something. If you notice all of these that I wrote up, okay, the 35 was bigger than 12, the 23 was bigger than the 8, and the 42 was bigger than the 34. Let's talk about what happens if I switch that around and I make one of these down here bigger than one of the numbers up here. So here we go. Let's do another problem. Okay, so here we go. So the thing I want to talk about here now is, notice that I made one of them. I didn't want to do it all at once, but I made one of them, okay, on the bottom, the one that I'm subtracting away, I made one of them have a larger amount of minutes than the one up top. And let's talk about how it is that we need to do that. So notice how before when I was subtracting, so if you take a look at these problems, when I was subtracting, I was borrowing from the tens column when I was doing my little individual ones. Okay, for this particular one, okay, I can't take 15 minutes and subtract 34 minutes from it and get a negative minute part. There is no such thing as negative time. So what is it that I have to do, okay, to make it so that I can make it a positive time? And the thing that you do here is that we have to remember this part here, that 1 degree equals 60 minutes, okay? And you also have to remember in a minute here that 1 minute is equivalent to 60 seconds, and that's what I'm going to use. So what I'm actually going to do is I'm going to take 1 degree away. So if I take 1 degree away from 25, okay, so I'm going to subtract 1 degree, and when I subtract 1 degree from here, I'm going to add 60 seconds over here, okay? And what that does now is that I've got this new problem that instead of being 60 minutes, it's going to be 75 minutes. Okay, so this now becomes, instead of being 25 degrees, it becomes 24 degrees. So make note of the work because I'm going to erase it just for sense of board space here. But this now becomes, instead of 25 minutes, it became 24 minutes when I subtracted it. And 60 plus the 15 becomes 75. So what I've got going on here now is that I've got 75 minutes. And this value is the same as it was before. This is still 25 degrees, 15 minutes, and 34 seconds. I just made it look different by removing a power of 1 from the degree. And when I move that power of 1 in degree, you have to remember the conversion. 1 degree is 60 minutes, so I added 60 here. Okay, so then we can go ahead and now we can start doing this. So 4 minus 2. So again, I'm adding subtracting each column by itself. So 4 and 2 makes 2. 3 and 2 makes 1. So I get 12 seconds. 75 minus 34, 5 and 4 makes 1, so I'm going to have 1 minute. 7 minus 3 is 4, so 41 minutes. And notice now that my time is positive. And then I come over here. So 24 minus 18, so 4 minus 8, can't do, got to borrow the 1 there, which makes that a 14. 14 minus 8 is 6, so I get 6 degrees. So my final answer now is 6 degrees, 41 minutes, and 12 seconds. So I hope that helps with anything you're doing. Let me do another one here. Let's do it where they're both bigger on the bottom and see what happens. So here we go. So the problem I'm going to do is 36 degrees, 8 minutes, and 19 seconds. And we'll do down here. What if I have 54 degrees, 12, let's do 13 minutes and 45 seconds. And we're going to subtract this one from there. Okay, so now what we're going to talk about here is what happens if they're all bigger than up there. And the thing that I want to talk about here is degrees can have negative answers because a negative degree just talks about the rotation around a circle. And we'll talk, and in my class we'll talk about that, or have talked about that in class, is that when you have a positive angle, it's rotating counterclockwise, and when you have something that's a negative angle, it's rotating clockwise from the x-axis. So here we go. Let's start off with this. Notice 19 is smaller than 45, so I'm going to have to borrow from the 8. So when I borrow from the 8, okay, the 8 becomes 7 minutes, and I add 60 to this, and this becomes 79 seconds. So now I can do 79 minus 45. 9 minus 5 is 4. 7 minus 4 is 3. So I get 34 seconds. Now, the next thing I'm going to talk about again is, well, now my 7 is smaller than the 13, so what do I got to do? I borrow from the 36, and I get 35. And the 7 then actually goes back up to, not 8, okay, that's the big mistake there, but the 7 goes up to 67. So I add 60 to it, and it becomes 67 minutes. So 67 minus 13. Well, 7 minus 3 is 4. So there's my minute symbol. And 6 minus 1 is 5, so 54 minutes. And then over here, taking a look at this one. Okay, so this one in particular, I have 35 minus 54. Well, I'm going to get a negative number there. Okay, so let's talk about how we actually subtract negatives. So remember, going back to longhand, okay, you're actually going to do 54 minus 35 and know that the answer is negative. So I'm just going to put some work down here. 54 minus 35. Okay, 4 minus 5 can't do, got to borrow, so that makes a 4, that makes a 14, so that's a 9. And 4 minus 3 is 1, so I get 19. So my answer is actually negative 19 degrees, 54 minutes, and 34 seconds. Now remember, the important thing here is that, yes, I can have the negative rotation, because the negative in angle just means rotation-wise, of which way I'm rotating, and the minutes and seconds can never be positive because it represents a time. So I hope that helps with anything that you're doing for degrees, minutes, and seconds, but that's how you do it by longhand.